Hello, everyone, and welcome to League One Lowdown here on the Deck Network. I'm Callum, and as always, I'm joined by Sam. It's Wednesday evening when we're recording this, so how's your week been so far, Sam? You having a good one?
No. Well, so we had no football, but Orient didn't lose, so that's good. Work is an
The first.
absolute nightmare, as it always is in September. But we are here. We've got some football to talk about. I understand, Callum, you had a celebratory day yesterday.
Yeah, finally out of university, finally out of education. I got my little degree over there to my. It's actually slipped. I need to get that reframed. Actually, whoops. But no, I had my degree yesterday. Had my graduation, which was nice. Hence the later recording of this podcast, so I can slightly get over the remains of the alcohol from yesterday. So, well, let's hope the alcohol hasn't put off my prediction game, which, as always, is as strong as ever, based purely off let's pluck some numbers out of thin air. And that approach seems to be doing quite well. If I was this good at predictions in Super Six, I'd win it every single week. It's a shame I don't even have the app downloaded, let alone play it. But yeah, it's another one where I seem to have wiped the floor. Sam, you take us through the results of
Ah,
last week's 3 games that there were.
of course, I have to do it. So,
Yeah,
if you're
I
not
love doing
familiar,
this. My favourite bit of the podcast. Off you go,
if you're not
Sam.
familiar with it, it's 3 points for a correct score, 1 point for a correct outcome, and obviously 0 points if you get it wrong, which I am doing on a regular occasion at this moment. So the scores on the doors from the previous week were me 17, Callum 30, and the scores after match week 5 for most teams was me 18, so I got 1 point, which was for Wrexham versus Shrewsbury. And Callum's now sitting on 36, so he has double my score after he got 2 correct outcomes out of the 3 games, with
Absolutely,
Wrexham
I was very
Shrewsbury
happy.
and Barnsley Bristol Rovers both being correct.
Oh,
Congratulations, Callum. And this is where I just do what they did on Come Dine With Me. I hope you enjoy your celebratory cream egg.
in my defense, I genuinely couldn't believe it when I checked the scores yesterday. I was like, absolutely insane. I didn't think I'd get 2 correct ones. I was like, I looked at the scores and like you know what, do we do the
Mm.
podcast and then a couple of days pass, so I forget what I put down. I forget what I put down. I was like, and in the back of my head, I was like, I'm sure I've seen that scoreline somewhere before, and I was like,
It's usually, yeah,
oh yeah,
usually
it's
on
come
your
out of
side
my
of
head.
the grid. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so there we go. So the overall so far, as you say, 18 to 36. Already, it's going to be quite the monumental comeback for Sam. But I think we saw it last year. It can be done.
Yes,
So
I'm hoping so.
wouldn't count your chickens before they've hatched, Callum. On to the other bit of our regular thing that we do here on the podcast, our fantasy EFL pick, a game that I Sam still haven't downloaded. So
I
at
can't
least
believe you haven't got it.
at least
Yeah.
you'll beat me at one game this year.
Woo.
You
I
can
don't even
take
think
that
I'm
on.
top of our League One lowdown lead, which if you want to join it is on our X page, which is scrolling along nicely along the bottom. I think Jamie is actually top of that, who does the review show on a Monday night with Seb. So my pick for this week, I've gone for Fraser Horsfall from Stockport County, the centre half, because I think they'll score a set piece and keep a clean sheet this weekend against Crawley Town.
Interesting thought. I feel like I've gone. I hate the fact that we've both gone something similar. Again, I haven't gone for him, but I have gone for Louis Barry. I think he'll
Mm.
probably get on the score sheet. Crawley, they all started so well, and we were like almost putting them in the same camp as Stockport, weren't we? At
Mhm.
one point, we were like, is that a bit of a team that we has gone under the radar, but back to back defeats. Um, it's one of them. They might have got carried away in their first 2 games, maybe spread those wins out throughout the season. Do you know what I mean? If you lose your first 2 games and then win the next 2, it looks a lot better than winning your first 2 and then losing your second 2. So, yeah, and just the momentum that Stockport have got at the minute is incredibly impressive.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and a goal. Well, you just have to look at the stats, don't you? 0.9 goals per 90 for Louis Barry, averages a goal every 100 minutes. So not too shabby. 3 goals from 11 shots as well this season is not a bad turnaround. Though Alfie Mayer's got 4 from 9 shots, so.
God,
But a more
I'm
difficult
really
game.
intrigued if Birmingham do go up, how Alfie May does in the Championship, because he's never had a shot at it. Always League One, always League Two, and always scored goals. So I think that would be quite interesting.
Will be interesting. Talking of Birmingham and Wrexham, in fact, that's on to our first of 4, what I'm going to call 4.5 games. There's 5 games that we've kind of picked out, and then we kind of decided that one of them wasn't maybe worth the full deep dive for reasons that will become very evident later on, given the team that it is and my record with said team. But first of all, Birmingham City against Wrexham. Sam, you're the stats guru on this podcast. We call you Stats Sam. Next week, if you're watching on YouTube, next week we'll change your little banner to Stats Sam to go through this game.
We need like a different word for aura that begins with C, and just put that in front of your name for next week as well.
Yes, good idea.
So the statistics for this game, we've got Wrexham have scored 10 of their 15 goals in the first half of matches this season, with Birmingham City conceding 5 of their 8 goals in the first half. Wrexham have a league most of 4 clean sheets, which is rather unfair, I suppose, to say, considering they've played a game more than most teams in the league, but it is what it is. Both teams have scored in every Birmingham City game this season. Birmingham have the highest average possession per game with 68.6%. In terms of expected goals, Wrexham are 7th with Birmingham are 7th with 5.8, and Wrexham are Birmingham are 22nd for XG conceded. Sorry, we'll start that section completely again. XG conceded, Birmingham are 22nd, which is the 3rd best with 2.6. And in terms of XG for Birmingham, they are 8th with 5.5 expected goals. Wrexham, in terms of expected goals, are 7th with 5.8. And for XG conceded, they're actually 10th with 5.6. But they have only conceded the 2 goals. So Mr. Arthur Okonkwo is rather keeping Wrexham defensively sound, shall we say, which isn't surprising considering his performances in League Two last season. We eventually got the stats out there, Callum, I say.
It does feel a bit like, I don't want to say God and Godzilla facing off, but it's like this does feel like who's going to get the advantage early on, if that makes sense. It's just like this is the first scrap in what I imagine is going to be quite a titanic championship battle. Well, battle for the championship to get into the championship and to win the championship of League One. That's a tongue twister. There you go. Yeah, I feel like, is this one on TV? Yeah, it is.
If this isn't on TV, then Sky.
It's on Monday night. It's on at 8 o'clock on Monday night. So even though we're going through it first, it's the last game we'll watch this weekend. But I think it's this is one of those games that if the season pans out a certain way, everyone will look back and just go, well, Birmingham City getting this win really showed their intentions for the season, or when Wrexham beat Birmingham early on, it really showed their intentions. And either way you go, you can kind of see it being a pivotal game, and one that the storyline will come back on.
You have a Sky Sports person at the end of the game going, how much did this win mean to you if one of them wins? That's always the question. It's like, we're on match day 5 or /6. Why are you asking them that question? It really doesn't mean loads in the grand scheme. If we're after match day 25, for example, these teams are still as closely a match as they are, then yes, you could probably ask that question. But it's just some of the questions players and managers get asked after wins and defeats. It's just really frustrating.
You could just imagine, though, if Wrexham do manage to go to Birmingham City and beat them in their own backyard, I think that's a huge I mean, we talk all the time about statement of intent at this time of the season, first 10 games. If Wrexham go to Birmingham, which is not a nice place to go at the best of times, I only see Twitter, that'll tell you that Birmingham's not a very nice place to go, let alone Birmingham City Football Club. So, and I just think looking back, this could be a huge game, and one that we look back on as one that does set the pace early on this season. That being said, I can kind of see Birmingham. we've seen they're slowly adapting to the league. Well, say slowly adapted to the league. They've not done too bad. They've fully adapted to the league. So, and we're starting to see that quality shine through more and more. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think it's going to be a pretty one either. But I will go with 2-1. Off the again, just purely, I think Birmingham. I mean, they've got the quality to shine through. They have to, surely. I think it's going to be 2-1.
This is probably the most difficult prediction we've actually had to do so far this season, I'd say, because they're two of the only 3 teams that still haven't lost. Birmingham are still adapting, I think, out of possession. In possession, they look really strong. Wrexham are really good out of possession. Yeah.
I mean, the Championship, you have to be structured defensively because every team's got the attacking force to tear you apart pretty much. In this league, it's so much more open, I think, in terms of just how the games go purely. But and I think Birmingham are still adapting to that, yeah.
This is a really difficult game to pick. And normally I would go off statistics, but even they are blimming quite closely matched. Yeah. I'm also going to go for a Birmingham win. I'm debating whether, because every game of Birmingham has had both teams to score in, but my scoreline will be the same as yours if I go, you know what, I'm going to go 3-1. You go 2-1, I'm going to go 3-1. We're not having the same.
Interesting.
My spur at the moment, one of them's got to work eventually.
Are you as the season goes, are you going to go more statistical as we get more data, or
yeah? That's how I roll. At the moment, it's really difficult because I base a lot of things on not just expected goals, but there's a lot of statistics that I will look at. And if you want to look at them, there's a website called FBref that I use. Please let us know if you want to sponsor us.
Don't you worry. We're not at the point where I need to get what was it called?
Your old famous footy stats.
Oh, that was fun. So yeah, the next game, obviously, one that isn't on Sky Sports, even though it's probably Lincoln's. It's probably the game that I think Lincoln City would want most on Sky Sports, considering it's what we consider a derby match, really. Because we don't have. I don't know if you've been to Lincoln. It's in the middle of fucking nowhere.
It's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
It's in the middle of nowhere. God knows why they decided to put a city here. I'm happy they did, though, because it's where I live. Peterborough United against Lincoln City. What I will call a derby match purely because we hate Peterborough. Sam, as always, go through the stats, Sam. If we get merch, by the way, it will be go through the stats, Sam, as like a mug or something.
We'll just have to let Ryan know that we want some merch after this. So Peterborough United have lost both their home games without scoring. Lincoln City have won both of their away games. Not that means that much after 2 games of either. Peterborough, in terms of XG, is ranking them 6th with 6.2. Lincoln City around mid-table with a 4.7 expected goals. In terms of XG conceded, they're both extremely similar. Peterborough with 4.2 expected goals conceded, and Lincoln with 4.4. Lincoln have had I'd say a pretty solid start to the season, to be honest, considering I didn't think they would do as well without a lot of key players. 3 wins from 4, sitting quite happily in 6th place. And Peterborough United, as we've come to be renowned, I suppose, with a bit of Peterborough, a bit of inconsistency, again, with a whole host of changes to the playing squad. I think it's probably a game you're quite excited for, Callum, I would imagine.
Well, I don't know if you got the stats up for their previous meetings, but off the top of my head, Lincoln's current record against Peterborough in the past few games isn't particularly great. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the last time we beat Peterborough. At least it doesn't stand out in my memory. And the big loss for this game is obviously we've not got the captain because of Stevenage. So Porty O'Connor won't be playing. Who his replacement is, I'd imagine it'd be Tom Hamer. Although Lewis Monsma has done all right. That would be incredible if Lewis Monsma scores the winner against bloody Peterborough. I think Lincoln fans would go insane if that happens, given his current injury record. So it's a game that I think Lincoln fans have reason to be excited for, given the forms of both teams at the start of the season and where they are in the league, etc. But one that, based off precedent, it's not a happy hunting ground for the Imps at all, I don't think.
Now, so in terms of the head-to-head, the last meeting was a 0-0 draw in January. Peterborough won the home game 2-0 last year. The meeting before that, you lost 3-0 at home, and then the meeting before that in 2022, Peterborough won 4-0. In terms of the last time Lincoln won against Peterborough, it was New Year's Day of 2020 when you were at home.
Pretty much this whole decade, other than the first day of this decade, we've not won against them. So, but it does feel like a new Lincoln City, really. So I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. You can think I'm a bit biased, but 2-0 Lincoln, 2-0. I'll go with that 2-0.
Score.
I've gone for the clean sheet. I've gone because I think George Wickens. He's. I think it was Jez George who said it, the director of football, that George Wickens isn't at the level that Lucas Jensen was when Jensen left. Although, off the top of my head, I think he conceded 4 in his first game, so maybe Lucas Jensen, getting rid of him for $500,000 wasn't a bad deal. But I like Wickens. He's a bloody tall bloke, and once he gets his positioning right, he'll be a great keeper. I'll go 2-0 Lincoln. Maybe a bit of bias, but I just know. Feels like a new Lincoln City, and I'm happy. I'm hoping just that the only thing I would say is if the replacement for O'Connor isn't decent, we might be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I just can't see Peterborough not scoring. I think the amount of pace they've got in attack, especially down the flanks, may hurt you. Obviously, Ricky J. Jones he's not been the most prolific or as clinical type of strikers this season, which is probably why they've dipped into the Swedish market again and bought that striker coming in January. It's probably the piece that Peterborough are really missing, to be honest, is that clinical Johnson Clark Harris type striker. Yes, I know he didn't play as much last year, but he's a different type of striker. He's a big physical unit. And with the type of players they've got either side now, and obviously they lost Mason Clark as well to Coventry, there is still some holes in that Peterborough squad. But like they always do, Abraham Odoa, recently signed in the summer, has had an excellent start to his Peterborough career. So I think with Peterborough, I think they'll always be in and around the top 6. I think we'd be stupid to just write them off. I do think they'll score because that's what Peterborough do. They do score goals. But I can't see them beating a Lincoln side, which seems to be well organised. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw in that one.
Well, the two teams they've not scored against are Wrexham and Huddersfield. So one team above and one team and below Lincoln. So, and Lincoln, they're a team built on solid defensive foundations, even if they've not really shown it this year so far. We'll have to wait and see. But we'll do one more game before we take an ad break, I think. And we'll do Bolton Wanderers against Huddersfield Town. My geography is not great, but again, I feel like it's definitely a northern. They're both northern teams, and therefore I'll class it as a rivalry because they're above Birmingham. That's going to cause some. It's going to cause a bit of fun. I will do some research while Sam's doing the stats to back up whether that's an actual.
I'm pretty sure one's in Yorkshire, which is Huddersfield, and the other's in Manchester, which is Bolton, because I've been to Bolton.
Well, therefore, War of the Roses and whatnot. But
I mean, if you go to Bolton, it's a lovely stadium because it's obviously near enough a Premier League ground. But there was bird shit all over the seats in the away end, which wasn't overly very nice. So hopefully they've either cleared the birds out of the away end or cleaned the seats. That would be quite nice, considering it's most likely Huddersfield will fit out that away end. So Bolton have started the season incredibly slowly, sitting in 18th place with just that win on the opening day, courtesy of my team. Huddersfield have had a much better start to life back in League One with 3 wins from their first 4 games with a loss in their last game. They recently announced the signing of Freddie Ladapo this week. I've been on record saying that I think Huddersfield needed a striker. they've now got a striker who is proven at this level and has won promotion with Ipswich Town. Wasn't the most fruitful spell at Charlton Athletic last season, but I think we can put that down to just how poor Charlton were, especially during the middle part of the season until Nathan Jones kind of made them really difficult to beat. So in terms of expected goals, Bolton really, really are struggling. They sit 18th in expected goals, which for a side with so much attacking quality is just not good enough. That's the be-all and end-all. Huddersfield's expected goals is ranking them 5th with 6.7, but they're actually underachieving because they've only scored 6. So realistically, I know you can't score 0.7 of a goal, but you'd probably have them to at least have 7, considering most teams always overachieve their expected goals. In terms of XG conceded, Bolton are really solid out of possession. So they're 23rd, which makes them the second best team with only 2.4 expected goals conceded. And Huddersfield Town sit in 16th place with an expected goals conceded of 4.3. So yeah, Huddersfield with a 1 home win and 1 defeat away from home, and Bolton with a draw and a win in their first 2 home games.
I will defend myself. It is only a 40-minute drive, 45-minute drive between the 2 stadiums, so I'm classing that as a derby. If Lincoln versus Peterborough is a derby, then this one is also a derby, so I'm taking that one. But yeah,
I think Bolton have much more fierce derbies than Huddersfield.
Probably, but I'm. Do you know what? There's a small win here, and I'm taking it. So, I'm not entirely clued up on other teams' hatreds. But anyway, yeah, Huddersfield. I feel like they'll be disappointed. Obviously, it's been 2 weeks since they played in the league, pretty much now, as it is for most teams. But they'll want to get back to winning ways. Losing to Rotherham is not nice. They're the only team to do it so far this year. And listening to a Steve Evans post-match interview where he's not complaining about something because his team won is upsetting. So they'll be eager to exact revenge. Bolton, though, you do wonder what's going on there. Is it a bit of, I don't want to say boredom, but is it a bit of that? You know, that we've had this manager for over 4 years now.
It could be a little bit stale, considering he's not really changed the way they play either, has he, in that time? It's the same system. It's the same sort of philosophy. You play through the thirds quite quickly and get the ball wide with really high wing backs and have midfield runners. Teams will eventually work that out regardless of your quality, and they can stifle your attacks.
Managers do their research. It didn't used to be this way in League One, but League One's almost evolved to a level now. I mean, I was talking to Michael Scabala about what he was going to do over the international break that we kind of had, and he was watching other teams. He was researching other teams, and that's what, not just managers now, but you get staff who do it, opposition research and whatnot. So, in an interesting game. It's a team who aren't where they want to be against a team who, again, will be wanting to show that they are the team to beat that we all thought they were after 3 games, really. So I don't know. I think I'll back Huddersfield. I think I'm very perplexed by what's going on with Bolton at the minute. And I do think it's a bit of that staleness that we've been talking about for Ian Evatt. So yeah, Huddersfield, I'll go 2-1 winners, I think.
Oh, okay. So I've gone for another draw, but I've gone for a 2-2 draw. I had a conversation on the X account with a couple of Bolton fans about Ian Evatt, because I was intrigued to know what Bolton fans actually thought of him. Yeah. They don't think the owner will sack him. They kind of agree that it's gone a little bit stale and they kind of want just some fresh ideas. There's a list of managers that they gave as well with reasons why, which was quite interesting. Ryan Lowe is top of their list at the moment. Somebody mentioned Gareth Ainsworth, but I don't think that's kind of what they're after. And I don't think he'd suit the type of players as well that Bolton actually have. Ryan Lowe would probably play the same type of football that Ian Evatt would play in terms of wing backs. They fly forward and you have midfield runners. But Ryan Lowe does have I'm pretty sure he got Plymouth promoted out of League One, unless he left just before and Stephen Schumacher finished the job. So We'll wait
I
and
don't
see
want
with
to say
Bolton.
it's crunch time for Bolton, but I mean, we grew up with them as a Premier League side, didn't we? Well, I grew up with them in
Yeah, I
the
did.
Premier League. I remember
Yeah.
collecting match attack
Ivan
cards with,
Campo,
yeah,
JJ Okocha. Yeah.
yeah, that's what you grew up with, and it feels almost like now they've become a recognised League One side, let alone a recognised Championship side. If they're not promoted within 1 or 2 years, you'd say this is their level
They're a bit
as a
stuck,
football
aren't
club.
they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just like I'm not. Obviously, we see their ambition. We have done the last few years, but I don't know. It feels a bit weird around there. So yeah, I don't know what score have you gone for?
I've gone
2-2.
for a 2-2 draw, yeah.
Beautiful stuff. So we'll have a quick break. We'll go through one game and then half a game, I suppose, and then we'll give you predictions for the other games as well. Welcome back to the League One Lowdown here on the Deck Network. Thank you for listening or watching us. I'm aware my hair is a mess, so apologies for that one watching on YouTube. Let's get into a game about a team bordering on the playoffs and a team in the relegation zone. And it's not the way round you'd think, given the states of both football clubs and where they were last year. Reading, who are in 8th. By the way, I don't know if you can tell, Sam. I'm really,
Yeah.
emphasizing. Were in financial ruin, had points deductions, could have easily been relegated last year. Where most people's favourites potentially for the drop, sit 8th. Leyton Orient, who have that really promising up and coming manager linked with top League One jobs as well, could have moved in the summer. Had a very hopeful transfer window signing. Not one but two on loan goalkeepers, showing that real fight for competition between the sticks. Leyton Orient, they've not won a game yet. Oh dear. So Sam, your thoughts on this one? I don't know if I hyped this game up enough for you.
Thanks, Callum. The only team without a point so far
Yeah.
in the league. And your point on our two lone goalkeepers, well, we knew one of them made 3 mistakes in 4 games. I watched our other loanee make a mistake for the Republic of Ireland under 21s the other day. And then our permanent goalkeeper made a mistake in the Bristol Street Motors game. So our keepers,
Oh, it's brilliant.
they're off. They're off to a brilliant start. I'm actually at this game, so I'm quite looking forward because I've never been to. I'm pretty sure it's the selectleasingcar.com stadium nowadays.
Oh, they're catchy, aren't they? Do you remember when it used to be like the Medeski?
The Medeski, simple and effective, but everything's got sponsorship nowadays. So I'm quite looking forward to my trip to Reading. But like you say, they have had a pretty decent start to the season, and it looks like their off the field issues are going behind them with the former Wickham owner looking like he's going to be taking charge of the football club, which is brilliant news for everyone involved at Reading. The only positive to come out of Orient in the past 2 weeks was, number one, they didn't lose last week. It was impossible because we didn't play, which is brilliant. And the second was the signing of midfielder Dominic Ball, 29-year-old midfielder, which is kind of needed experience, played at championship level, had part of the Ipswich Town squad that got back-to-back promotions last season and the season before. 99 games for QPR in the Championship as well. Only the 20-odd games in League One, but vastly experienced at Championship level as well as SPL for Rangers. So he will join the club, can play right back as well. So versatility at its finest. In terms of expected goals, you're not going to expect a humdinger, I don't think, in this. Orient currently sit 17th in terms of expected goals conceded, which is actually the 8th best with 4.2, considering the teams they've played. It's probably not actually that bad, even though they did concede 3 to Shrewsbury Town. Reading are 19th in terms of expected goals, which is the 6th best with a 4.1, so they're fairly similar matched out of possession. In terms of expected goals, this is where the big humdinger difference is. Reading sit 10th with 5.3 expected goals, so they're near enough bang on. With Orient, their expected goals is 2.3, which is the worst in the league, which is rather alarming. To be the only team without a point after 4 games is not something we're averse to. Last year was fairly similar. We only had 1 point from our first 4 games. And then obviously we picked up after the international break. So the international breaks come at the perfect time for us. It allows people, let's say like Jordan Graham, for example, we're expecting him to be in the squad this weekend, which is fantastic.
And here you were complaining about it last week.
I like complaining.
Helped you. Just on Orient, do you think it's more about the fact that you're not creating the chances or you're not putting them away? I mean, that XG would suggest that you're not creating chances at all, but are the chances you're creating just not good ones?
I know what you mean. I don't think the quality of chances we create is not like drill across the 6-yard box where your higher XG chances come from. They are usually balls into the channels with forwards running onto them and getting on the end and then having a shot. So they're not like clear-cut chances, I would call them. So our XG will be quite low and was really low last year as well. But the chances created number is also very low, which is rather concerning. We have experimented with different systems. The problem we have is it is the wide right area where your Graham and your Theo Archibald will play. You're currently playing Dan Ajay out there who wants to drift inwards, which is fine. But then you need Sean Clare to create the width, and he wants to drift inside. So there is sometimes completely no width on one side of the pitch. The problem it's not a problem. The good thing for Reading is that their players are virtually the same as last year, other than Kem Campbell, who they signed in the summer. It's virtually the same squad, so they all know how each other play. They all know how Ruben Sellers wants to play. And it was a difficult game last year. I do believe we beat them at their place for a Dan Ajay penalty. But I don't think we'll win this time. But I do think we'll get a point on the board. I just think this side of the international break, now we've had a couple of weeks to just reset, get the negativity out, I suppose, around the club. Not that it's mainly like, I think it's normal, isn't it? When you start 4 games with 4 defeats, there is going to be that negativity. And it's just a reset for everyone, I suppose, the international break. It's just a shame there is 3 of them. Well, 4 of them if you include March's one as well.
I think an interesting stat would be what's it called, like score, like XG per shot. That would be a really interesting stat. I don't know if it's. I don't think it's one that's particularly well documented from the quick look I've had. But yeah, just that because that would help almost analyze the type of chances and how the quality of chances you're creating. In terms of the game, I really don't know because it all logic would dictate that Reading get the win here. The league position and everything would suggest that Reading not walk it, but would walk it. And to me, I don't want to say this game's depending on where your manager's at, but to me it does. You know, Richie Wellens, we saw it last year with Steve Evans. Like as soon as he checked out, the form went downhill. You know. Is it that sort of situation? I think this game will show you whether he has. I mean,
I don't think so because I don't think there's any jobs available. And as much as I am adamant, if the Bolton job become available, he'd go for it. I don't think he'd get it.
Yeah, but I don't know if he has. I'm not going to say he has because I don't know him personally. I'm sure we'd be great friends, but I don't know him particularly. So, do you know what? I feel nice. I don't know what, but something's just telling me that you're going to win 1-0.
If we won 1-0 for a 90th minute and it comes off somebody's arse, I honestly wouldn't care.
But do you know what I mean? It feels like I always, in my head, this is how I kind of get this, how I feel like I get the prediction spot on. It's like, how do I imagine this game being covered on the ITV highlights?
Quickly.
A 1-0 quick 2 highlight compilation is genuinely how I see it. So yeah, you got 1-1. I'll go 1-0. Stevenage v Barnsley. The game that we're going to talk about half, just because apparently, according to Sam, we need to talk about Stevenage more because apparently we don't talk about them. That's purely because you got rid of the one good thing about your football club, and by good I mean boring and talking point. You got rid of the one talking point on your football. Well, you say you got rid of him, you lost him. So that's why I don't think anyone really talks about Stevenage anymore. But Stevenage against Barnsley, a few stats for this one, Sam.
Yeah, so we've just got their expected goals and their expected goals conceded for this one. So Barnsley have, funnily enough, Barnsley have had over 2.5 goals in every single game this season. So a rather exciting team to watch, shall we say. Barnsley have the highest XG in the league with 8.6, which is, like I say, slightly skew with because they have played that game more. Yeah. Stevenage have scored just the 2 goals so far this season, but do sit 11th place in terms of expected goals with 5.3. I know they had missed a penalty at some point this season as well. So Stevenage are creating high quality chances, but they aren't taking theirs. And that is probably due to the absence of Jamie Reid, which probably doesn't help. Barnsley have, like I said, the best XG in the league with 8.6. So Barnsley have, to be honest, surprised me with how well they've started the season. I'm not going to lie. I didn't think... It sounds harsh because I really like Darryl Clark as a bloke, but I didn't think he was the star appointment for Barnsley.
You wonder whether he's a top half manager.
Yeah. I thought he was like a mid-table sort of League One manager, and I thought that's where Barnsley would be after, especially after losing people like Nicky Cadden, Herbie Kane, all in the summer. But the signing of Davis Keillor-Dunn, extremely exciting, scoring on his debut. Yeah. Gabriel Slolina, the goalkeeper on loan from Chelsea, where everyone seems to be on loan from. He obviously made a mistake, but then made an excellent save. So while they're not the most solid defensively, Barnsley, going forward, they are extremely exciting. Darryl Clark, because really like him as a bloke, not because Seb is a Barnsley fan on the review pod. I do think they have been my favourite team to watch so far this season, just because they were so open. They seem to have bounced back really nicely from their opening day defeat as well to Mansfield, which they had a calamitous, I think it's fair to say, 30 minutes before Clark changed the system. And I think he got a lot more respect from the Barnsley fans as well, because I think there was some scepticism around the fan base when he was appointed. But making a bold substitution after 30-odd minutes and changing the shape showed that he can make them difficult decisions. And fair play to them. They're currently sitting nicely in 3rd place with 10 points from 5 games. And if you do that over the course of a season, you average 2 points a game, you're going to get 94 points. 92 points.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I don't know. Like, Stevenage are a side that I think... like everyone knows what you get when you go to Stevenage now, but I feel like that's not necessarily because of how they're being trained and how they want to play football. I feel like it's a bit of a remnant from the past that they don't want to talk about, but it's a habit they can't kick. This long ball, physical style of football. I don't think there's not many players, especially at, this. You've not got many up and coming players who want to play that style of football. You might get, when you might get some older players who, are a bit more physical and whatnot, who like to play that style of football, but I don't think you get them really that much. No. So they're just a team that, to me, I feel like they're yet to find how they play. I don't want to say they're lost, but their league position doesn't make for great reading in 17th, and they're a team that we've all predicted, I think, to do badly. In terms of Barnsley, Keillor-Dunn, I kind of painted this picture in my head that, based off what one fan had told me, that he was a bit of a spoiled player at Mansfield who didn't really want to play for them anymore. He's kind of checked out. And to be fair, I think you have to give credit for players when, if they checked out and you're just like, well, I really hope this move backfires on you. I mean, after one game, it's not exactly a huge sample size, but he seems to be doing all right. So to me, it feels like Barnsley will be up to the challenge. It is obviously a place where you can get unstuck, but 2-0.
2-0? Okay.
2-0 Barnsley.
Yeah, I think this game, I think, is difficult just purely because Stevenage have only conceded 3 goals. So they don't score and they don't really concede. Where Barnsley score and concede. So something's hopefully one record is going to be broken, unless it's, well, yeah. it's two completely contrasting teams because one is like a really physical team, isn't it, in Stevenage?
Yeah.
And Barnsley have a couple more technicians. So I can't keep predicting draws because that's not going to work. I
You have
will.
to also figure out this is stats. You'll see I very rarely predict draws because they're the least likely outcome as well, aren't they? So
I'm going to go 2-1 to Barnsley.
interesting. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Let's go through a couple of games quick fire then to end the podcast. Where however you're listening, whether you're getting back to work or whatnot, let's get through these rather quickly. Blackpool versus Exeter, a managerial debut in this game. Sam, your thoughts?
Well, Steve Bruce has come out and said he's barely watched any League One football, which
Oh, well, that's a
isn't
great
a
start.
great start, exactly. Especially when I know they're at home, so it's probably better that they start off at home. I think it'd be more difficult if they went to a ground on a cold Tuesday night down in Exeter. But Exeter, pretty solid under Gary Caldwell. It's made them a really hard team to beat. They've got experience now all over the pitch. And I think Exeter will beat them 2-1. Blackpool currently without a win, the worst defence in the league, conceding 11 goals. So I'm going for an Exeter win, 2-1.
I know I've just said you don't predict draws because they're the least likely one, but 1-1, I think Blackpool already got 2 draws back to back. Exeter without a draw this season, but there's always time for firsts. So yeah, 1-1. I think not a stale game, but we'll wait and see. Mansfield Town against Cambridge. I think a game that Mansfield Town, I don't want to say can't afford to lose at this stage of the season because it's very early, but Mansfield, everyone was blown away by in the first game, and then they've not done an awful lot since. But then Cambridge United, you'd argue they're already in the position where they need points, else they're going to be in a whole load of shit. They'll be praying for points with a monk in charge. So.
Yeah, so no disrespect to either team, but they're probably both looking at this fixture as we can't lose.
Yeah.
If we want a realistic chance of staying up, we need 3 points.
I think 2-0 Mansfield is a fair shout here. Obviously, was it a draw last time out? You'd maybe think that because they don't have Keeler Dunn now, they can maybe all flourish as individual players instead of having to play through that one player. We see it sometimes with teams that they can play a bit more freely when they don't have to go through a certain player, and maybe that'll be the case here.
Yeah, I've gone for 2-1 to Mansfield. I think I quite like the loan signing of Ben Waine to kind of replace Keeler Dunn. As we know, Mansfield are an extremely physical side. Cambridge aren't that organised. They're not an extremely physical side. Aidan Flint back post header. That's what I'm going with for this game.
The definition of a nothing game this week. This kind of match week is very hit or miss, really. If I'm honest, you've got some great games and then some absolute rotters. Northampton versus Wickham. I don't know if there's much to talk about this. 2 sides who will be mid-table by the end of the season, and that's pretty much all there is to say. Northampton will win it 2-1.
Okay.
There won't be much to talk about from this game unless probably one of them scores a halfway line screamer, which is probably going to happen now, for honest.
So this is one of your games where you just go with the aura, isn't it? And just go, it's 2-1, and it usually comes off. I've gone for 3-1 to Wickham.
Have you gone with the aura on this one, or?
I've just gone very quickly looking at how many goals Wickham have scored. They've scored 2 in every game and conceded 2 in every game. And Northampton have conceded 1 in every game and scored 1 in every game.
Yeah.
Northampton have drawn their last 2. Wickham have drew their last one and won the game before. But I quite like some of the signings Wickham made late in the transfer window. They started very slowly last year and picked up towards the end of the season. So I'm expecting Wickham to sort of kick into gear now because some of the signings they made were players that were at the club last year. So I'm expecting them to start kicking on again now. So I have gone for 3-1.
Next up, 2 sides who I feel like are probably they should be switched switched places, perhaps, maybe. Bristol Rovers against Wigan. Bristol Rovers, who I don't want to say have surprised a few, but they're becoming a Bristol Rovers side, really, winning a few, losing a few, and drawing the odd one. Ninth place, having played a game more than most teams. Wigan in 20th spot. I don't want to say alarm bells ringing there yet, but maybe a few warning signs that something needs to be done there, because we talk about Bolton being a bit stuck. Wigan have been a championship team, haven't they, for most of their existence, or at least from what I can remember. This is probably showing my age again, being how young, but I remember them as a Premier League side. I don't remember them before being a Premier League side. So, yeah, it's a weird one. I think I'll probably go 2-1 Wigan.
Okay.
Again, this is purely aura. I can't really see Bristol. It's Bristol Rovers. They'll win the games that you don't expect them to, and then lose the games you expect them to win, and it's just, yeah.
No, I did have 2-1 to Wigan, but I have changed it very quickly and gone for a 1-1 draw. I don't think Wigan had the transfer window they kind of wanted.
Yeah.
And Bristol Rovers, I think, did. Matt Taylor got all the players out he didn't want, got his own players in. They've gelled relatively well. They don't concede many. They don't seem to score too many. But I've got on record, I quite like Matt Taylor as a manager. And I think Bristol Rovers will only get better throughout the season. I do expect Wigan to climb the table because I quite like Sean Maloney as a manager. I think he plays some good football. But I think a 1-1 draw.
3 games to go then. Crawley versus Stockport. For me, this kind of one-way traffic, really. Stockport second, 3 wins and a draw. Crawley 2 wins and 2 defeats. Stockport, who I think we'll always say were the surprise, because no one really looked in depth at the transfers. There's a few where you're just like, oh, that's a decent signing, but then I feel like they've caught me out anyway completely. So yeah, I'll go 3-0. I think they'll walk it, really, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I've gone for 2-0 in this one.
I mean, they've already conceded the least amount of goals in the league. Yeah. They're the only side to have only conceded 1 goal so far this season. I'd imagine another clean sheet isn't really beyond them. Rotherham versus Burton. If you'd have told me a Steve Evans side against Burton Albion last year, I'd have said this is probably the worst game of the lot. Can you tell it's late on a Wednesday? Rotherham against Burton. 2 sides who, Burton's still looking for their first win of the season. Rotherham really not where they want to be. They played 5 games, so again more than most, but only 1 win so far. I don't like Steve Bruce, so not Steve Bruce, Steve Evans, sorry. So I'm going to go, don't worry, Brucey, you're next. I'm going to go 2-1 Rotherham.
2-1 Rotherham, yeah, I've gone for 2-0. I think Rotherham are starting to get it together now. A win and a draw in their last 2. I've seen enough improvement in them now. They were creating chances, but they just weren't scoring goals. Now they've got that burden off their back of their first win. I am seeing improvements in the Rotherham team. They got a thoroughly deserved point against Charlton. Arguably should have won. The Steve Evans bingo press conference after was quality, like it normally is after they don't win. We really need to design a bingo card and cross them off throughout the season. But yeah, I think they'll win 2-0.
And finally, Real Madrid versus Charlton. For those who have been watching the news recently, you'll know why that is a reference with Andy Mangan there. But Shrewsbury against Charlton. Yeah, your thoughts on this one, Sam? Oh no, sorry, Shrewsbury. I should mention because Andy Mangan used to play for Shrewsbury.
Yes.
So that's where that reference comes from. Is actually at Stockport now, I believe. So if Stockport don't fucking walk all over Crawley, you can blame Carlo Ancelotti for that one, or Brexit, which is apparently the reason why that's an issue. But Shrewsbury Charlton, what have you gone for?
2-0 to Charlton. I think it'll be a Nathan Jones type performance. Shrewsbury have scored 4 goals, 3 of them being in 1 game. I just don't I don't care if Shrewsbury beat us 3-0. They're just not. They're very well organised out of possession, but they don't have the quality that a Charlton team possesses. I've gone for 2-0 to Charlton. I think they'll bounce back from 2 games without a win, Charlton.
Sound a bit bitter about Shrewsbury then?
Not at all. Not at all.
I'll join you 2-0. That's the first time I've agreed with your prediction for a while, which is weird for one of these. Which means we'll get that wrong. And Shrewsbury, congratulations on the win. But that's all for the League One Lowdown this week. Remember, you can follow us on X at League One Lowdown. Like, follow, subscribe. Do whatever your favourite YouTuber or other podcasts say. Feel free to do that for this podcast as well. And obviously follow us on Twitter. That's where we'll be asking for questions every now and then and having a few conversations with you over on there. But for now, it's goodbye from me. Sam, it's goodbye from you, I assume.
It is indeed. I'm very much looking forward to my Premier League round trip next Tuesday, Ken.
Brilliant stuff. Enjoy that one. Don't talk about it, please. That's all for the League One Lowdown. Thank you very much.